We've got the last match of the day coming up for you guys, and it's going to be Pathra versus BloodTrail, and it's going to be another Hunter versus Paladin. So again, we continue to explore this Holy Wrath Paladin matchup base, and this one versus the Hunter of Pathras that we can check out is going to be another interesting one, because I feel like it's the closest to at least I think a 50-50 matchup at the moment out of the Paladin matchups itself. But what do you make of this list from Pathra?
I think this is card for card the Hunter that Bunny Hopper was bringing last week, and that has been basically deemed the Hunter go-to list. And I actually had the chance to talk to Pathra a little bit about how she was feeling going into this matchup, and she said that well, she thought Hunter was a pretty safe bring because it counters Mage pretty well and is well positioned against things like Bomb Warrior and well, in her opinion, Shrivala Paladin, and a lot of people's opinions. But now we're starting to see a little bit of a difference of who is actually favored, because she said that after watching the games yesterday, it was a little bit scary to see Hunter lose to Shrivala Paladin pretty convincingly.
Yeah, and it's for me, I do agree with the Hunter pick just being a decent pick if you accept the fact that you're probably going to play a lot of mirrors. I say a lot, they play 2 matches a week.
Yeah.
But there's a high likelihood that you'll play a mirror, and as long as you are comfortable in the mirror, as well as some of the other matchups, of course, I think it was a decent pick this week. Because I do believe there's a lot to the mirror, and you can definitely play it well versus playing it badly. So you can gain the edge there just in the knowledge. So the list, though, as you mentioned, fairly standard. This is very close to what you'd expect to see on ladder, so your average one. The secondary and tertiary decks we can talk about a little bit later, but even those builds seem fairly regular now for Hunter, with the additions of the Savannah High mains and Dire Wolves in 2 separate lists respectively as well. But BloodTrail is going to be on this Holy Wrath Paladin, and this is a huge match for both these players. BloodTrail at 1 and 3 right now so far in Grandmasters, and Pathra being at 0 and 4. So a little bit, I'd say a bigger win for Pathra, mainly because there's no wins on the table yet. But both these players are sitting at the bottom of that division more or less. So this is going to be a huge one. But BloodTrail's Holy Wrath Paladin, I can see a single equality, and also as well the double consecrate, so not too bad a list as far as I can see.
Yeah, the list, I feel like there's cards that are missing because I don't see a Ziliax either, but I think he is just running the 2 of everything else, and none of the other cuts he deemed were good enough, because I've seen people trying to cut True Silvers and things like that. But yeah, this feels like the same as the China list that we've been seeing a lot, and it's quite well positioned against Mage. Particularly against Hunter, I don't know if there are that many techs you can do to make the matchup much better. But we did see something very interesting a while ago about, yesterday, about this interaction you can do where when you hold on to tracking as the Hunter and a Master's Call, after the Shrivala turn, if they don't OTK you and they go for the 50 over 2 turns, you can do the Dire Frenzy on their minion and then heal for a whole bunch, because you can draw 2 Shrivalas from your deck. So that's something that BloodTrail can keep in mind. But overall, I feel like with the double True Silver, you're in a pretty good position against Hunter. But again, this is something that's highly debatable at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like this list specifically is very much an all-rounder. You could argue that the lack of Ziliax is a problem, but I also think if you're running double Shrink Ray, double Holy Wrath, double True Silver, double Prismatic Lens, double Hammer of Wrath, then suddenly that's a lot of your deck, which is quite expensive, and having the Ziliax in there as well, I see as a potential of just more cards that can clog up your hand and slow your game plan down to like 1 card a turn style of play, which is a lot of the time not what you want to do with the Holy Wrath Paladin. You generally want to use multiple cycle cards or cards to clear and so on. So it looks okay as far as I can see for BloodTrail, but yeah, I will just reiterate as well, Pathra on her match tomorrow just have a Hunter mirror in the form of Samuel Sao, and then BloodTrail is going to be going against Glory's Rogue as well, so we get to see Paladin versus Rogue come up tomorrow. But both of these opponents, I think the mirror match and the Paladin versus Rogue are going to be a tough one for these players, and I think that this win here is going to be very, very important.
Yeah, you brought up that this weekend it's kind of been a story of Paladin versus the world, except Mage, which is what Paladin is initially brought to deal with. But then it's been flexing that I think it's like 6 and 2 throughout this weekend so far. Frosty did kind of cheese out a win in that last one, but yeah, the Paladin only really looked weak when it was up against Bomb Warrior, which is known to be a bad matchup, but it's showing that it's got more stuff in these matchups where people are saying Hunter is favored, Rogue is favored, but I guess it might be one of those things where the player that likes their own deck thinks they're favored.
Yes, exactly. And also, you've got to always re-look at a deck that is brought as a counter, doesn't hit any of its targets, and still has a very good win rate. You've got to really go back to the drawing board and say, okay, maybe I submit this next week.
Both players with stellar hands, I would say. Crystology and Prismatic Lens are great early game, and Pathra has Coin Companion into Companion, and without True Silver, one of those is likely going to stick for the Dire Frenzy, and if it's a Huffer, my goodness, that is so difficult for the Paladin to deal with.
Yeah, that's just a lot of stuff. And also as well, in this matchup, the Hunter can often afford to just completely ignore the minions on board outside of maybe Crystal Smith Kangor, because you always end up with the Spring Paws and Unleash the Hounds, you know, something that can actually tidy up those pesky little minions. So, yeah, you can be pretty chill this game, and now this Misha's going to start wreaking havoc, I think.
I wonder if BloodTrail just drops the Elven Archer. I think he definitely does, because the mana looks like it's very condensed in the Hunter, the Paladin's next few turns. Like, you're gonna have to spend the 4, and then it looks like you might have to 2 and 3, because this looks like a game where you might have to time out super early.
So now, Pathra must have a read that this Consecrate, I feel like, or a Pyro plus X, right? Or Pyro and 2 cost something or other. So maybe you unleash this turn. Call me crazy, but maybe you unleash this turn.
Oh, but then that loses so hard to True Silver, right? But I was gonna say
it definitely does.
I was gonna say this is only bad if you hit exactly Huffer, right? If they Consecrate and then you hit the other Misha, they can't clear both, right?
Right.
Or the Ox. So this is such an unfortunate pan out for Pathra. But
yeah, I was just wondering that, does the Elven Archer indicate that it isn't True Silver? Because would you really Elven Archer on that turn if you had True Silver next turn to kill a Misha?
Well,
like, I don't know. Like, that seems super weird.
It's tough to say whether the face damage is more relevant or not, but because the way this panned out, I think Pathra has no choice but to go double face. I don't think the Hover trade accomplishes anything, because Consecrate is bad for you either way. Yeah.
Deal 8 this turn. Dealing 8 on turn 3 is pretty good. Whoa.
Yeah. Okay, so I take back what I said. The Hover trade could have accomplished something by not leaving one more minion left up, but I think the Misha trade accomplishes nothing.
Right. I would have just jammed it to face. I think that Elven Archer should have tipped Pathra off to something fishy going on in terms of a Consecrate or a Pyro, and if that's the case, you just go face.
I'm not sure if it's a hard read, because I don't know if like the 1 damage to face ever matters this early on, whereas like at least the 1 damage on the minion gives you some flexibility with your draws. But in any case, Pathra has to go back to the drawing board now, because her hand is very low on threats. Dire Frenzy onto a Shimmerfly is not ideal.
I will say though, I think Pathra did just play around Pyromancer and Flash of Light, which was the initial setup versus a Misha. That would work, because the Elven Archer and the Novice were played in the turn where there was just Misha on board, and then those 2 trading plus the Pyro Flash of Light would actually do enough damage.
But you would have a Huffer on board then, right? At 4-1.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that's... I don't know.
I mean, either way, you end up with a 4-1, right?
Yeah. But I will say, though, that I think you definitely Animal Companion there, because just getting the Hover is quite sad. But luckily for Pathra, she's drawn the Master's Call, so now she doesn't feel too bad about Dire Frenzying something. And now she's likely to draw 1 mana 4/4s. And the Shimmerflies, they need to get answered at some point, and that means she'll get more spells, and Hunter spells are obviously great these days. So BloodTrail just going to continue drawing cards. He deemed that board not worthy to Shrink Ray because it is just 1 minute. Well, I guess he could do it now, but...
Well, now he's going to overdraw. And the only plays are a Pyromancer, the Shrink Ray, or the Kangor. Is the Kangor so bad right now?
I was going to mention, I kind of like it. I mean...
It sucks versus Deadly Shot, of course. But the problem is you've got no heal.
Yeah.
So Kangor does nothing anyway, right? It's going to use a Shrink Ray. Okay.
I guess the Kangor is much more flexible later on, and BloodTrail's like, well, I have the other Shrink Ray, and the next turn could very well be Pyro Shrink Ray. And then he's still got another equality in the deck. And he was at 20, which is a scary amount to be at when your opponent has a 4/4. So I can respect the Shrink Ray.
Yeah, the problem now, though, is Pathra is representing damage in an awkward fashion. In that there's a 5/5 and a 1/1 on board. Are you really going to AoE this down? Like one big minion, one small minion for your AoE after using Shrink Ray already? Like, it's super scary. But it's 6 damage. More than that because there's weapon and hero power, and BloodTrail's on 19. Like, he's going to be dead soon if he doesn't do something. Yeah. Maybe this is a timeout turn.
And you saw there that Pathra did not hesitate at all to go for the 5/5 on 6, even though it's not like a great tempo play. Paladin, she knows, just really struggles to deal with the 5/5. It's just out of True Silver range. It's just out of Pyro Consecrate / Thalnos Consecrate range, things like that. And the Master's Call is always going to be good at some point.
Deadly Shot looks good to me.
Oh, yeah. And she could probably tag on a 4/4 Shimmerfly at the end of this turn. Doesn't get it, though. So...
Kind of interesting that there was just a Dire Frenzy, although I'm guessing Patra's saving Dire Frenzy for the Scale Hide.
So there's definitely several ways that the Hunter can go about this matchup. And the Dire Frenzy and the Scale Hide does that thing where you can out-heal, but I think that requires you having the other Dire Frenzy for their Shirvala.
Right.
And she already used it on the Shimmerfly, so I'm not sure if just trying to outlast the 50 damage over 2 turns is a viable plan anymore. Now she can go for the thing where you Dire Frenzy the Timberwolf and go for a bunch of bursts from hand when you have Tundra Rhino. So I do like just dropping the Spring Paw there because the Timberwolf seems too valuable to just use for 2 damage like that. I mean, I think I was a bit critical of Rivius the other day when he was dropping the Timberwolves without too much extra damage getting too much extra damage off of them.
Yeah. The one problem is going for that kind of late game plan with the Timberwolf relies on the game going long. Your opponent is 9 cards ahead of you right now, so the game is not going to go that much longer.
It's true.
So I think the plan that I was surprised at, and maybe wrongly I would have gone for, was just a Dire Frenzy on one of the minions on the board anyway. And because there is a Rhino in the deck, and you Dire Frenzy, push more damage, so then that board soaked a Shrink Ray and a Hammer of Wrath, and it's still big enough to force a clear out. You push 9 that turn and start stacking more damage.
It's definitely a tough call to make. From Patra's perspective, I think she probably feels far behind enough that she might have to go for that OTK from hand push because
That's
she
a
knows
long time away, though.
Yeah. I think we start with the tracking and see what options that gives us. If there's a Rhino, I think we take the Rhino. Shimmerfly is just something you can play this turn alongside maybe Unleash the Beast, and then you can use the weapon to deal with the Pyro. You are going sub 25 in that case, but I think it doesn't matter too much because you know BloodTrail has True Silver and you cannot remove it.
Right. The problem is as well, Patra's just going to have to force out these timeouts. You can't even avoid it, right? Your opponent's drawn the deck, they have them.
Yeah.
You can't say, oh, I hope they don't have it. Patra is going to actually trade with a Lynx instead, which I don't actually super dislike. But because we know these True Silvers are down, yeah, it means that this is easy for BloodTrail to push some extra damage. I guess this means, though, that Zul'jin might help, right?
Oh, true, yeah.
So like, if she tanked 3 and then took another 4, well, Zul'jin doesn't save even for 1 turn anyway.
And we can see BloodTrail already starting to chip away with the True Silver. He's seen a Dire Frenzy, so he's pretty comfortable knowing that there's only 1 left that can either go on a Scale Hide or on a Timberwolf, depending on what Patra has to do, but he doesn't have to worry about these 2 different plans of attack from the Hunter. Pathra could really use some card draw. The 9 lives can get her another Shimmerfly, which after it dies could get card draw, but...
Also generates a spell on the turn as well, so... I think Pathra just needs to do something right now. I don't think this game can be played any slower.
Yeah, without the Rhino loaded up, I think it's pretty unlikely. Or Zul'jin off the top could get her some leeway, so that's another argument for playing out cards so you make space in your hand for the Zul'jin stuff. To be fair, she has seen double Shrink Ray, so it's just the one equality now that is a scary super board removal. Super board removal. I just use that for the ones that unconditionally clear everything, you know?
Not true for equality, though.
Fine, Divine Shields, yeah, but...
Death Rattle, so on, so on.
It's better than Consecrate, okay? It's super.
Okay.
It's super Consecrate.
So, something to bear in mind, though, there is just 12 damage available for Pathra now.
Yeah?
Which is something that BloodTrail does have to consider. He can't just, even though he's probably feeling comfortable right now, he can't just say, it'll be fine, I'll forget about it. He does have to do something here. He's going to take a bit of heal with this weapon, drop Pathra down to 18, which again just means that the Zul'jin does not save her directly. But I do think this kind of needs to die.
Right? I mean, well, he can no longer go for a Pyro Clear, so yeah, he's just going to go for timeout. And I was going over the VOD yesterday, and I completely reversed something that I wanted to say, which is like, it's better to go timeout into board clear, and I said the opposite thing by accident. But yeah, this definitely is better because it makes it so awkward for the hunter of like, well, if I develop more and just walking into their trap.
Wait, Okay, so Pathra could have actually can make BloodTrail overdraw. But she chose not to.
Oh, with the rapid fires.
Well, all the minions,
yeah,
right?
True,
do whatever whichever way she wants. But I think
seems too fancy, right? Yeah, you're getting them.
Okay, I would have done it. I'm gonna throw my hands up because I feel like you're in a rough enough spot with only BloodTrail on 4 cards next turn left in deck, and there's no quick way to win.
So she could have only overdrawn for 1, right? So that's exactly Shirvala is the punish. And I guess the whole... Did he use 1 Holy Rock?
But I think as well, the overdraw means that because the hand is full for BloodTrail, it's harder for him to spend his cards sometimes.
I'm not a big fan.
Okay.
My question is if he's used 1 Holy Wrath, maybe that makes it more enticing because we know he has double banker. If 1 Holy Wrath was used, then suddenly 2 combo pieces are crucial.
He has used 1, right?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to live in a world where we can see these are the cards that were going to be. So there's 2 draws, which would have gone to full. So the next draw would have been burn, right?
Yes. Yeah, but it's super results oriented, right?
No, I'm living in that world. No, seriously though, BloodTrail does have to do something. Whether it's another timeout again, what he has to do though is just start working out mana costs. And it's like, well, if he times out this turn, what does the clear turn look like? Then how many turns does that gain him through draw? Which then gets him to that ship out.
Well, I like the Equality Consecrate this turn because next turn he can definitely go Hammer Wrath timeout, and then the turn after his deck is empty, and then just...
Well, there you go, yeah.
Yeah. And if you do the timeout now, you don't have the mana for Equality, Hammer Wrath, and Consecrate. So this looks pretty obvious to me, but it's of course worth taking the time to think about it. So this hunting party, if those if those Timberwolves were 4/4, that could have been so cool.
Yeah, actually would have been pretty sick.
I think I was watching Senfglass stream the other day, and he legit dealt 50 from hand with Hunting Party onto Dire Frenzied Timberwolves and a Tundra Rhino to beat a Warrior. That was sick.
And that'll do it sometimes.
But obviously Warrior gives you the time to do things like that, whereas Paladin definitely does not.
Yeah.
I think
basically, if you look at the numbers at the top right and bottom right of the screen, the one that's got a red circle around is because the deck's getting low.
Yeah.
Though that number is a countdown to BloodTrail winning the game, basically.
I was wondering if it was getting desperate enough for Pathra to have to like rapid fire her own Shimmerfly, but then I couldn't even think of a spell that gets her out of this. So yeah, she was pretty much just locked out of it there. And Shivala last card, so yeah.
Twice this weekend where Shivala's been the last card, and that honestly looked very, very difficult for Pathra there. And I'll still go back and say that if I'm going to nitpick about plays, I wonder if the Elven Archer onto the Misha looked fishy enough to flag some kind of clear. And then if that is the case, then the only thing that clears is a True Silver, which would have cleared anyway. So maybe Unleash in a results-orientated world, of course, would have been a little bit better and maybe done enough, but we don't know. But that definitely looked tough for the Hunter there in that matchup. And BloodTrail might be able to just continue this holy wrath of power that we've been seeing throughout the last 2 days. So we're going to go to a quick break and set up the next game. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Well met, friend. Ooh.
Let's get this over with. I win!
Oh, what an amazing game! Well played!
Here's to the winner.
We're back and we're going to answer the question of can Paladin just get there versus Hunter? BloodTrail currently leading 1-0 versus Pathra with a very convincing win over the Hunter deck, but the players have changed onto one of their side decks. I believe both are on the secondary, but we can check out Patra's deck and let's see what the changes are.
Yeah, I think Pathra has moved to secondary and BloodTrail is still on his primary.
Yep.
And Pathra, her secondary is running that second Rhino and more importantly, I'd say double high main, which is so awkward for Paladins to deal with outside of exclusively Shrink Ray.
Yeah, there's no real clean way, and even if it's shrink raid, it can be rebuffed, or it can just be traded off, and then there's the hyenas as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just seems pretty straightforward, a little bit more reach, and the removal of, I mean, Unleashed didn't see much value there. Headhunter's Hatchet, although can get some damage done, does it equate to more damage than the average high main? Probably not. And then a single Timberwolf, because again, we saw the board, although there's options for doing the big damage with the Tundra Rhino, I believe that is just too slow versus Paladin.
I actually think that the Timberwolf removal looks a little bit weird to me. Of course, this is thinking in the context of the Warrior matchup, which is, I think, the matchup where you want the double high mains too, and maybe it's also got a side benefit of being okay against Shrivala Paladin, but I feel like against both Warrior and against Shrivala Paladin, I'd rather remove a second Unleash, the Hounds.
I think for me, the one Unleash is a little bit flexible and helps with hyenas that you are keeping, but the Timberwolf, because you know you can't go for that big late game push with a Timberwolf in this matchup, then it's absolutely fine to cut, because if you play it and get a few extra damage, like, you know, you play 1 mana and you gain +3 damage that turn, that's fine. But is it ever, again, just better than an actual Unleash that might actually just buff a hyena for way more damage over the course of a trade or two? Because you do see that sometimes the Paladin does end up with a few minions on board, especially post-Christology.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I haven't really dissected the choices of removing the certain card, but I also want to highlight the add of Life Drinker, which is a card where I've seen it floating around in certain hunter lists. I think I forget the name, but somebody posted a high legend ladder list where there's no more Shimmerflies and you instead have Life Drinkers, which like 2 weeks ago Life Drinkers were in, last week they were out, and I guess one might be back in again. I guess the extra reach can just be something.
Yeah, and funnily enough in this matchup specifically, the extra reach is a positive for the hunter, and the extra heal is a positive for the hunter as well. Maybe that Life Drinker puts Pathra over 25 health, which means that BloodTrail's going to work just that little bit harder to get to the damage. But yeah, forgive me, I thought both players had switched, and I actually looked at the deck and was like, that would be crazy.
Yes.
So yeah, BloodTrail is just on his primary list, which is why we did not look at another deck. Apologize, but we're going to get into game number 2 now. Pathra. Hunter looking pretty okay, at least, with just a guaranteed 1-drop and a couple of 1-drops if Pathra chose, but she did mulligan the Spring Pour away. And then BloodTrail has Christology, so he's fine.
I feel like every OTK Paladin we've watched has had Christology on 2, and I just keep thinking this card is going to be Christology on 1 very soon, because this is the last week before buffs go live.
That's the thing, this card actually just only gets better and better, because Paladin does not play 1-drops it wants to play on turn 1. So right now, BloodTrail could have already drawn 2 cards this game and had guaranteed 2-drop plays. It's insane.
And I really like the off-curve Timberwolf from Pathra, because it kind of represents the same amount of damage the hero power does because of the body attacking, and then the attack. It's actually 1 more, right? Over 2 turns.
Because it's extremely unlikely it gets cleared, right?
Yes, it's like exactly Elven Archer, and if you're BloodTrail, you don't want to do some type of Pyro coin play, and Pathra curves into Animal Companion, and now this is a board state that really makes Paladin want to cry, especially when they don't have True Silver.
Yeah, I do really like the Wolf, I agree. This is one of the things that doesn't happen enough for me. I think everyone gets caught on Timberwolf plus tons of minions. It's like, well, imagine if Timberwolf just said 1 mana, 1/1, deal 3. You'd be like, oh, that's just a pretty solid card in Hunter as well, because it's a beast. So yeah, I think getting value out of Timberwolf as and when you can, especially because it helped out with Patra's curve so much, is pretty sick actually.
And it's looking like Pathra has the ability to just shuffle some 7/7s into her deck and push face for 8. The thing is, this is weak to both Equality and Coin Shrink Ray, but because there's 2 minions on BloodTrail side of the board, she cannot trade away the Shimmerfly to play around those, so I am in favor of just pushing everything face.
There's a weird thing you could do where you could Dire Frenzy double trade, but then that's just laughable because it's an insane amount of damage you miss out on. It would clear the minions off and be safe, but it would not be worth it.
The Shrink Ray off the top, that's an insane top deck for BloodTrail, because he otherwise did not have an answer for this Misha. It looked like he might have had to time out if he didn't draw that, but granted he could still time out this turn, but I kind of like going for the Shrink Ray now while you can definitely clear the Misha.
Right, that's the key, right? If you time out and wait, then these minions might get traded off, and then suddenly Shrink Ray, yes, it reduces the minions down to 2, down to 1/1s, but the 1/1s still deal damage, so.
Okay. Instead, BloodTrail's going to take it even slower, and I guess knowing that Pathra removed 1 Unleash the Hounds, this is incentivized a little bit more because this board state kind of needs a spring pot to deal with easily. And Pathra, I like starting with the Shimmerfly trade to...
Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, what? I think you have Master's Call and 2 Rapid Fires
Yes.
that line up very well and probably draw you a Misha for next turn.
Looks great to me.
And you can Rhino Misha on turn 8 for 9 damage from hand. This Rapid Fire,
yes.
yeah, okay.
Definitely like this.
Ooh, even the... I actually half forgot about the high mains because it's just an extra unique minion that interacts with Master's Call. Yeah, I think this Rapid Fire gets played every single time. And you just put your opponent to 20.
Then you still kind of force BloodTrail to either shrink or equality and just 1 minion. And then after that, you refill with the high main. It's just really insane. BloodTrail looking pretty upset about that. I didn't hate the Kangor Flash of Light play because you don't play around your opponent getting rapid fire, but this did backfire for him a little bit. And I still think it's Shrink Ray. It's just the 1 minion, but...
It's a tough one, isn't it? It's just... the difficult thing for me with Holy Wrath Paladin, or what separates really good players, is the removal timing versus the timeout timing.
Sure.
It's a lot of times. But because there could have been a timeout there, because Pathra always develops on the board, but then you only save 7 in most circumstances, so that's not worth it compared to what you can save later on.
And for me, even though I made that rule of generally it's better to go with timeout into board clear, the difference is that the timeout on that turn, I think Pathra had the freedom to simply remove those minions, not necessarily develop 2 tall things like she had the Spring Paw, and then ask the question again, Shrink Ray now, and it gets worse the longer you wait, and you've already used the timeout. So I did like the Shrink Ray there from BloodTrail, and now
2 times in 2 games that the Pyro and Shrink Ray have been drawn, so it's a 5-mana Pyro and a 2-mana Shrink Ray instead.
BloodTrail, we saw him hovering over the Acolyte, which means he's willing to take this 6, which I think is fair play because he's probably not dead just yet.
It's also, apart from a huge clear, the least amount of damage he's ever going to take, right?
This trade is a bit strange to me because he's likely to Shrink Ray at some point soon, and like having the minion on board, if it's not answered, that means that's something that can clear something post Shrink Ray. I'm not too sure about that, but maybe he's trying to create some flexibility for a Pyro Hammer of Wrath play.
Worried about Unleash, maybe?
It's a one-of. Yeah, 2 minions.
I mean, Zul'jin's a one-of. You still have to be careful of it sometimes.
Sure.
Next turn, though, there is the Rhino and the Misha, which is huge, because that is going to be 9 damage just straight away.
Oh, Raven. Patrick can overdraw him here. But I don't think we do that.
Should.
Yeah, this is definitely
Yes.
quite simple. Ooh, I kind of like the Goblin Prank, just because it's burst out of nowhere. Oh, maybe the Arcane Shot is just better, right? It's like
It's just cheaper.
Yeah, 1 less damage, but also 1 mana cheaper, so... Okay. And, the Misha, she has seen 1 Shrink Ray.
I think the Misha holds fine. You can guarantee the damage. Just press the hero power.
Yeah.
You-
And
you
the Spring Pot, yeah.
Yeah. Because you can guarantee the
Yeah.
Misha hits face next turn.
With the Tundra, you're
Yeah, it's
absolutely
like,
right.
and it's
yeah.
so like 9 from hand
Yeah.
is insane. And now, surely, there's a timeout coming. Because I don't see that there's enough mana to do anything else here. Who?
You can start with this and then timeout, and then that makes it so that the next board, with Pyro spell into Shrink Ray, he can clear even the death rattles of the...
I was worried he's going to
Jaime.
go like...
Just soften it up.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is going to be quite sad for Pathra. It could very well be a pass this turn.
Yeah, this,
Because ideally she would have wanted to start chucking kill commands face or something like that.
yeah, this turn can get a little bit tricky. I think you do play the Misha.
One of them for sure, because I don't
Yeah.
think you're ever going to have the... Well, you'll never have 11 mana, so they're not charging on the same turn, so definitely can get behind that.
You press the hero power just to assert dominance.
Sure. BloodTrail's problem is that he doesn't have a cheap spell to proc the high main and then go for the cheap Instant Ray. He was setting up for something like that, but I think he still has a Flash of Light left.
I wonder if this ever turns into a Shivala turn.
It could. I mean,
Because Shivala does become cheap enough, you can banker it afterwards as well.
for sure.
So maybe, just maybe. Because that's a lot of heal.
So he would just go for the Holy Wrath onto the high main, I suppose. Then heal for 7, shuffle it back in. You can also fit in a Novice Engineer.
Let me.
Oh, sorry, you can't with the banker.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, because you need to play banker, right? So. Oh, even a Consecrate for next turn. I actually like this play from BloodTrail. It feels weird to do, but you're against Hunter, so it's likely you can get the damage done anyway. And this is just safer than any kind of like awkward half play,
Yeah.
because it's unlikely you die from 19.
So-
Although there is 15 damage. Oh no, 16 damage with the Arcane Shot, sorry.
This is, okay, there's no Timberwolf, so
I think you 16 them, right?
yes, you're correct. It's 3 off lethal.
Oh no, it'll have to be Kill Command this turn for the Shivala.
Yes, I definitely like kill commanding the Shirvala. And Pathra, I think she should be in a pretty comfortable spot because she now knows that one of the combos has been expended. So she also has this alternate game plan of like holding on to the
The
Steel
heals.
Hide, and she's got the Zul'jin as well. So she can stay above 29 even, like accounting for the True Silver.
Yeah, and the thing is with the True Silver as well, if BloodTrail's swinging at face with True Silver, then I'm pretty sure Patrick can outrace that damage that's going to happen. Because BloodTrail's still got 10
Yeah.
cards. Like, this is just too much damage. I don't see an out here. It would have
I
to
agree,
be another
yeah.
timeout with a chain of good card draw.
I definitely agree. And like he's so far off from being able to.
I think you drop the
Shimmer.
Shimmerfly.
Yeah.
You drop the Shimmerfly because you've got the mana to Arcane Shot anyway. Or maybe you hold it for the extra 1 damage of burst next turn guaranteed. But I think the spell's fine. Because you could have actually
Yeah.
like Rhino, Misha, Shimmerfly, and Arcane Shot for 3 damage instead of the 2 damage you get from Hero Power.
The tracking is interesting, but I would be inclined to just Zul'jin. Wait, how many things does it summon? It definitely gets an Animal Companion. I don't think she played Unleash the Beast, did she?
No.
So it actually doesn't summon that much. The thing is, if you're tracking and you don't get something good, like specifically high main, you're kind of locked into going for
think-
the Tundra Rhino turn.
I think Zul'jin does the best here because of Dire Frenzy, right? You want
Sure.
Dire Frenzy into Master's Call from Zul'jin, which fills your hand, and then you try and just kill them.
The issue is, I was going to say if the kill
Oh.
command hits a minion,
okay,
but
okay.
that's the best result. And the Mark Shot is going before the Animal Companion, so
Alright. No.
great outcome for Pathra if even just one thing sticks.
Rapid Fire means it's actually 3 damage with the 8 combo. There's the
Ooh.
Dire Frenzy.
Yeah, I don't see a way out of BloodTrail, out of this for BloodTrail.
This is just the Master's Call Dire Frenzy is just too good.
Oh, I see the way. Lethal Raven? Is this a frosty moment?
So BloodTrail can actually draw as well, right?
Yeah, to
because
make it-
even if he draws Shivala, he can banker it back.
Yeah. And I think there's
Oh, he
still
can draw it this way.
something
It's
in
way
there.
better. What am I talking about? Yeah, I was
Yeah?
looking at
Yeah.
the Novice Engineer and I didn't even see Christology.
I mean, he can go for the 1 in 6, and I think you do it. He's in an awful spot here. Oh, is he holding out for 1 more turn?
I think
I
so.
suppose with the True Silver hit, you go up to...
It's unlikely you take 13 this turn.
Okay, with a Misha...
Well, you also know there's no minions, so there's
True.
no Unleash big turn.
True.
The buffed Dire Frenzy number 2 was a Leok, so that's not going to provide
Yeah.
much, if any, instant damage.
I think
so I
it's-
think holding 1 turn's fine. Ooh, there's Shivala.
okay. I think it's because he's specifically seen the Timberwolf get played already, and he knows it's a 1-of because she's on the secondary deck.
Mm-hmm.
Without specifically Timberwolf, I think Hunter's Burst is limited to just the Thunder Rhino Misha and then 2 arcane shots discovered, which happens to be
So does-
just 12.
Yep.
He's gonna hurt.
Oh, no, it is 13, right? But yeah, you're not playing around double arcane shot.
Yeah, but you're playing around the Rapid Fire. right? It's Arcane Shot Rapid Fire, because you
Yeah.
know there's a Rapid Fire in hand,
Right.
but not sure about the Arcane Shot. Because he doesn't know there's an Arcane Shot, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Because it's not been played yet.
And tough turns for Pathra. She did use the Scale Hide, which is a 1-of. She still has Life Drinker to get above the 25, but we can see BloodTrail has the second True Silver.
Going in's pretty good. There's a second Rhino anyway. This puts a lot of pressure on BloodTrail, which means if he spends mana clearing, it's much harder for him to spend mana drawing cards.
The issue with this is that you give him something to hit with Shrivala. I'm not sure if
That's
it's
true, but if they hit, then BloodTrail has to go for a 25%?
true. True. Very true.
Which means it's 25% to win or lose the game, because if it misses, it's
oh
game.
my god, that's a huge draw.
Wow. Is this Paladin just going to get there?
I don't know what are the remaining cards, but if one of them is Flash of Light, that makes it even more likely because he can fit it into the turn. At worst, he goes for a 1 in 4.
I don't think there's any value in doing anything else, right?
Yeah.
This game just comes down to this, basically, because, excuse me, I'm choking. BloodTrail can't really feasibly heal enough to not die, right? So this timeout buys him 1 turn, the hit's just...
I don't know if the True Silver hit does anything,
But
but
I think
yeah.
the hit's just to hit. What's the problem? Not doing it a few seconds of your life, I guess. But I think this is correct, and BloodTrail just has to go for it next turn
Yeah.
and hope it's enough.
It comes down
Close.
to a roll of the dice, I think.
God, timeout is so nutty.
Is there any Shimmerfly Discover that could... No.
I guess
don't think so.
Deadly Shot is the best in case there's a Shivala on the board.
Yeah, because BloodTrail, if he doesn't hit the 1 in 4, he will have to just rely on the Shivala getting there. Of course,
Right.
it never does. Pathra has a million answers, but honestly, this is just a formality.
Maybe Leok Tundra Rhino X pushes the most damage. To go for Deadly Shot, I think that's fine. I think you buff the Rhino, right?
I think
So
nothing matters.
Well, I'm
this
just saying, if
point,
we're going to go
but yeah,
really
sure.
deep, because
Yeah.
the Shivala gets played, it trades into the Misha no matter what and doesn't die. So should you buff the Rhino because it's more likely to get more damage out? Pathra loading up the board, and I think this game is going to be over quickly one way or the other. Because I don't,
Agreed.
unless I'm missing a key card here, I don't know if BloodTrail can survive.
Not
problem
with
is he
that,
can't-
he ain't.
Well,
He can go up to 8 with a True
he can
Silver?
equality conk,
Oh.
hit face, and go up to 8. Is 8
So,
enough? Well, that's the
yeah.
next question.
So that's a reason for holding on to things like
Yeah.
minions, because then the Rhino with the minions gives you more burst. But she still gets there because they...
Yeah, is 8 enough? Is 8 enough to beat a 25% chance? Do you
No, I mean,
live more
yeah.
than 25% chance of the time?
I don't know. I mean, you saw her use a ton of minions, but yeah, Rhino...
Oh,
wait.
Misha?
Does she have the mana to go for it now? Well, okay, now Rhino Misha still
Yeah,
gets there,
that's just
but
getting-
the Rhino Rapid
what's-
Arcane Hero Power is...
I'm worried about this stall. Am I confused? Or that's just lethal,
No,
right?
we just count
Huh?
every time. This is lethal too.
Okay. There was just a moment there where I was like, charging Misha
Yeah.
plus 2 damage from the Rhino just gets there. Like,
Yeah.
super straightforward. Pathra wants to play with more cards, so that's fine. There was just a split second there that I was like,
I was
uh-oh.
worried that she missed the guaranteed, right? Because Rhino, Rapid, Arcane Shot, Hero Power. That's 8.
Which
And
turn?
That turn, because she started with tracking.
Oh, okay, sure. I think, yeah, there were many ways that lethal could have been achieved. For me, I was just like, yeah, just track into a Misha.
The tracking
and just
could
kill
have
them.
very well been guaranteed. We don't have deck tracker,
Yeah.
we don't know. Maybe like all of them were just minions that get there since you also just
Right.
have the burst from hand. But yeah, I mean, throughout the rest of the game though, I think Pathra had great knowledge of like just the high main on curve.
Right.
Paladin does not beat that.
I think it was really difficult as well for BloodTrail because I'm sure someone will work it out, but I don't know if 8 health is better or safer than going for a 1 in 4. because I think if I was BloodTrail, I would have just gone for the 1 in 4 and hoped it was enough. But we'll find out at least at some of the points.
Wait, sorry, I wanted to correct myself. Maybe the rapid fire was only on the twin spell already and not a double.
If it came off Zul'jin, it would just be a 1.
Yeah, I don't quite remember, but that would make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, it was just the 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was just game number 2 out of this series. It's all even, so we're going to end the day with one final game of Pathra versus BloodTrail and maybe deciding on how good Hunter is versus Paladin. We're going to go for a quick break while the players get ready. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
We recently revealed Hearthstone's all-new 3-tiered esports program. Masters qualifiers are already well underway, and now we're ready to share details on the highest level of competitive play, Hearthstone Grandmasters. Are you ready to unlock all the secrets of Hearthstone Grandmasters?
Come close and listen.
Here goes. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of Hearthstone esports, composed of 48 of the best pro players in the entire world. Grandmasters is divided into 3 regions: Americas, Europe, and Asia Pacific, with each represented by 16 pros. These pros are selected by special invitation from Blizzard Entertainment. Criteria for selection include lifetime earnings, Hearthstone competitive points earned, contributions to the Hearthstone community, and more. So who are the lucky Grandmasters? Stay tuned, because in the coming weeks we'll be revealing the inaugural Grandmaster roster region by region. In 2019, there will be 2 seasons of Hearthstone Grandmasters. Each season will feature 8 weeks of world-class competition played out in online tournaments. Grandmasters pros will earn both prize money and performance-based bonuses during the season, and they will automatically qualify to compete at all Hearthstone Masters Tour events, guaranteeing these marquee tournaments feature the fiercest competitors possible. And the best part? You won't miss a second of the action, because matches will be broadcast live on twitch.tv/playhearthstone. 5 matches will be broadcast every Friday, with 5 more every Saturday. And if that isn't enough Hearthstone action, there will be 6 matches broadcast every Sunday.
More souls!
Mark your calendars, because the first season begins on May 17th. Hearthstone Grandmasters is the pinnacle of professional Hearthstone, where the world's best pros battle it out every weekend online. Think you've got what it takes to reach the top? The path to Grandmasters starts with our Masters qualifier tournaments, so sign up today.
Each teammate I'm calling has stories. This tale's about riches and glories. Deep down in the earth, a king dreams of rebirth and refilling his gold inventories. Such a shame to have lost all that treasure. Join up, be a kobold of leisure. The cards now be calling. Someone new, no more stalling. And we next will be taking her measure.
Got Rexar versus Uther and Pathra versus BloodTrail. Going to be coming down to the final game, and it's Hunter versus Paladin, of course. And both players are sticking to the same decks they had in the previous game. And so secondary for Pathra with the added Tundra Rhino, the Life Drinker, and the High Mains. And then BloodTrail's just sticking to his main deck, because the other two just aren't quite teched for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned a while ago, and we saw it in action, the High Main is just such a problem card for the Paladin, and I think Patra's move to the secondary is definitely a smart choice. And I also want to apologize for calling out a lethal that wasn't there. I know if you guys have been following Twitter, there's been a lot of heat recently between casters and players, and whether you should be too critical of something or not, but I definitely was in the wrong there, so apologies to Patra.
No, don't apologize. That's now a further misplay. You wait for the tweets and take it to Twitter.
No, Ruben, I mean, I'm not afraid to own up to when I mess up, so.
Okay, well, Pathra now starting off with a pretty good curve herself, with just 1 drops into the coin Animal Companion, if so desired. But then I think most importantly for me, at least, just the Dire Frenzy to really start applying the pressure. I think that was the biggest difference from game 1 and 2 for me, is that the Dire Frenzy opened up so much more damage for BloodTrail to have to react to early game.
Already a tough decision between all 3 of these represent a win condition of some sort. I'm inclined to go Master's Call because the hand has the Companion Frenzy, but also I think I might have Spring Pot on turn 1.
Yeah, I would have been upset with the Spring Pot, to be honest. What's the punish is Elven Archer response?
Oh
and it's
my
like,
gosh,
is that
the
a
worst.
punish?
That is actually the end of the world. But what this does is, I guess now she can just play double Spring Paw. Well, that gets punished by Acolyte, but you can guaranteed stick a Dire Frenzy onto a Spring Paw, which is not a bad thing at all when you're running double Tundra Rhino in the list.
It's tough though, right? Making these kind of decisions this early in the game where you don't know how it's going to shake out is very, very difficult, because the second you say, okay, I'm going to Dire Frenzy link this Spring Paw, which means I need to play Tundra Rhino in a certain way to get some damage, well, that already restricts so many of your plays you can make if you draw that Tundra Rhino early. It's tough. There could be a deadly shot this turn, which would fully deny card draw. It doesn't even draw one, it just insta-kills it.
Yeah.
It does nothing. It seems reasonable.
I think that's totally worth it, in my opinion, denying card draw. And I think you would rather Frenzy a Companion. Well, it's tough to say. Without Rhino in hand, then the Companion as a solo Frenzied minion is better.
He's overall stronger, right?
Yes, but when you have Rhinos with the Spring Paw, suddenly that's so much more burst. It's a tough turn. But I like your suggestion of Deadly Shot. I don't think it hits anything better. And you still push 2, it's a little bit slow, but I mean, if you go for Frenzy Trade, you're technically only pushing 1.
Right.
I'm just sure we don't Animal Companion because Huffer is the only decent result, and Misha gets punished by True Silver.
Pathra is going to go for the Deadly Shot and just say, you know, in a race where, as I mentioned earlier, it feels like the card count is just the timer to lethal for BloodTrail. Denying even one card draw is powerful, but more than one is actually super good.
And BloodTrail, I think, gonna go for an early Pyro Flash of Light, and I like this a lot because just the 3-1 body is quite awkward for Pathra to answer because she's used a Spring Paw, and I think in the secondary list there's no Headhunters hatchets. So Master's Call could pull the second Spring Paw. I mean, any Animal Companion is awkward because, like, if...
It's also a chance, sorry to interrupt a little bit, but Master's Call into Spring Paw, and then if you get a High Main too, you can just coin out the High Main the turn after. Seems reasonable at least, and you can just hold on to this Animal Companion Dire Frenzy for a little bit later. It is relevant of what the Master's Call gets, but still, I don't think Master's Call is ever too bad here, but maybe there's an argument to wait until you Dire Frenzy to Master's Call.
She's looking at Hound plus Hyena, I think, which develops a 4/3, and it's weak to True Silver, but I'd still also do like the Master's Call, because I don't think you're worried about the Pyro being on board. It also kind of disincentivizes BloodTrail from playing spells. And sometimes, yeah, you hit the Spring Call sometimes.
I did just wonder if it's worth saving the Master's Call for a post-Dire Frenzy, because that is one way. If you Dire Frenzy this relatively early in the game, and then you don't hit the actual Dire Frenzy minions for a while, then the sort of chain impact you can have is lessened.
Well, in that case, you'd be saving it for a Frenzy onto an Animal Companion, which doesn't happen for a very long time. But now she has this Timberwolf Dire Frenzy potential with the Rhino in hand. And I'm not saying it happens this turn, but that looks pretty threatening. This turn looks like Unleashed Hyena.
It does look good.
Yeah. It still dies to True Silver, but at least BloodTrail would take 6.
I always struggle not to want to coin High Main.
Oh, true. Yeah, that is
just coin
just,
High Main
yeah.
just seems sick.
She
It's
had
like, what do you
coin.
do? You got 2 1-1s, whatever.
Completely missed the coin. I mean...
Yeah, it's why the Master's Call I felt was good, because not only can you hit Spring Paw, but you can hit High Main, and coining High Main on 5 is just so good, because the BloodTrail just almost never has an answer to that card, not in one turn anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, this requires a Shrink Ray, and after the Shrink Ray, I mean, sure, BloodTrail could ignore the 1-1, but then if Pathra is able to clear BloodTrail's 1-1, suddenly she has this insurance against AoE, right? Which is just the Death Rattle.
Also,
minions.
funnily enough, Rhino, if you Shrink Ray the High Main, is actually pretty sick.
Oh, this Holy Wrath onto the High Main. I guess, yeah, the hand did not merit a Shrink Ray into no follow-up. He needed to high roll that a bit, yeah. I am now of the opinion that High Main just solos this matchup.
It's definitely awkward, isn't it? Very similar to the Warrior matchup. It requires just a little bit too much to cleanly remove on any given turn, especially when you do a turn quicker. And now if there is the Hyena, this is the issue. It's the Death Rattle, right? Because the Hyena's a threat. The High-Main's a threat. Okay, cool, just Shrink Ray. Right, but the Hyena's not dead and can grow again, and the High-Main hasn't proc Death Rattle.
It is.
So who cares?
Super
So
scary,
it's like, what do you even do? It's very difficult.
Yeah, and Pathra has such a great hand moving forward. She has the option to Dire Frenzy either the Timberwolf or a companion. If the companion gets a Huffer, I'm pretty sure I know what her answer will be. And she has the Rhino waiting in the wings, and a board that BloodTrail just does not want to deal with. This True Silver might hit the High-Main preemptively and just completely signal Shrink Ray. But the problem is he doesn't have mana next turn for Shrink Ray Consecrate.
Yeah, I think it goes the other way, right? It hits the Hyena this turn, so the Hyena can't grow at all. And then next turn you can swing into the High-Main and Consecrate.
Oh, so just not use Shrink Ray at all? Okay, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, well, Consecrate gets there, right? Maybe another timeout gets used, I'm not sure. It depends on what's going on.
Yeah.
But the Hyena, can grow bigger, potentially. Which means it's out of range, so then you do have to do weird Shrink Ray stuff, whereas this means you just swing into the High-Main, Consecrate the board, job done.
Yeah. And it seems like the punish for that would be exclusively Dire Frenzy onto the High-Main, which you never want to do as the Hunter. It's too slow.
But you want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I think Dire Frenzy onto the Huffer is fantastic.
And it's also something that does not just get answered by Consecrate.
Right,
Like,
that's the big
it's
deal, yeah.
Such a strong position.
So now it will have to be what? Hit Shrink Ray and then Conk next turn?
What about just timeout, hit the High-Main? You can play a Thalnos for draw.
That's both timeouts gone though. Then you just open.
Yeah, and then you just die to some Huffers randomly, but I feel like that could happen at any point if they're just, you know, holding 3 Huffers in hand.
Right.
Even if you time out an empty board.
I think hit Shrink Ray is fine. Maybe even just Shrink Ray, not swing. And then you can hit next turn and then,
I could see that too.
Go.
I could see that, yeah.
But I think you need to hold the timeout for a little bit longer. You're only halfway through your deck. There's a lot of this game left, and if there isn't, it's because you've lost.
Yeah.
I think so. I think holding on to just another timeout in a bit more of a dire situation is more important here. Thanos comes down not because you really need the spell damage, but more for card draw.
Makes a lot of sense. So Pathra can build a Hyena that is bigger than what Consecrate can deal with. I'm wondering if she goes for Mark Shot just to get some more card draw, but
What if
you chuck in a Rhino right now?
Well, you can go Rhino, Hyena, Wolf.
And you can trade in the High-Main and the 2/2s go face too.
There you go.
And the Timberwolf is in there. Wait, how much damage is that? That's gotta be tons, but probably not 25.
14.
Did you factor in the buff from the
I didn't even
Timberwolf?
factor.
Yeah.
No, okay, so 14.
So
19. I factored it in for the Rhino, but nothing else.
Okay, yeah.
So I think 19 quickly, but that math gets weird when you're trading in the
Yeah.
High-Main that buffs the Hyena.
I will say-
also gets +1, and then the 2 Hyenas get +1.
Yeah,
I think just push the damage, just go. You've just seen an awkward
Ooh,
multi-turn
the
play.
The rope is running out though.
Oh, no Hyena. Oh, I feel that's
This
a good chunk of missed damage there.
Yeah, this is pretty sketchy to
Whoa.
me. And also Thalnos is on board. Oh
There was
no.
a miss with the dog.
Yeah.
The dog didn't attack.
And the Timberwolf, right?
I think so.
Yeah, there were only 3 attacks that. Oh no.
Ooh.
That's pretty rough. Granted,
That's a
it was a
problem.
complicated turn, but if we weren't going for the all in there, or at least killing the Thalnos so that it protects the High-Main from the Death Rattles also dying to AoE, I feel like maybe we could have just gone for an Animal Companion turn. So
This is...
yeah.
So
Yikes.
this would have been the outcome regardless, but there would have been way more damage pushed. And also, the Thanos even pushing damage, the Thanos gave the Consecrate spell damage, which actually put Pathra to 25, which is kind of funny. Although there's the True Silver that can swing, of course, anyway, but even just the extra damage being there is huge. And now, Pathra needs to piece together something. And let's just remind ourselves, there is no Zul'jin in the deck.
Yeah.
Zul'jin is gone. It's not being played.
Tracking could be huge, though. The other Master's Call, I think, is still on like, oh, double Huffer.
And the Dire
Yeah,
Frenzy.
you don't want to discard the other one. So that means there's only the one Huffer left in the deck, I believe.
Yes. No, one got naturally drawn, right? Or did it?
This is...
No, I think there's one left. I
We
think there's one
really
left.
need deck tracker, but okay. So this is still quite a lot of damage from hand from Pathra. Just a turn like Huffer, Life Drink, or Hero Power, that's 12.
That's not a bad push.
Yeah, going in with this now after she's seen a Shrink Ray makes sense. Oh my goodness, the Kangor, Flash of Light, and he doesn't have Banker at the moment.
And now this is the problem where the more BloodTrail stabilizes, the less chance Patra's got, because she has got Dire Frenzy minions in the deck, so that is something, but she tracking over a second Dire Frenzy. One of the Huffers was gone, and also she tracking over Zul'jin super early in the game, which I don't disagree with, but I think that if you're tracking over Zul'jin, if you don't end the game quickly after that, then, well, you're not getting there because you don't have that big refill turn. And not even just only for on board, but the refill in hand. Because right now, Pathra has a Hyena, a Life Drinker, and a Dream. This Mark Shot has to discover some quite magnificent levels of spells to win this game, I feel. There's still that timeout that BloodTrail saved as well.
And BloodTrail, he has this interesting decision of whether he can go for Tempo Shirvala. Obviously, we can see that's a possibility because Pathra doesn't have convenient answers in hand. But from BloodTrail's perspective, he doesn't know that she no longer has Zul'jin. And Zul'jin could very easily answer Shirvala.
Right.
So BloodTrail had to Shrink Ray there, even though I feel like he would have wanted to hold out a bit longer.
The good thing is for BloodTrail is, I said earlier he had half his deck left. Well, now he doesn't. Now he's going to be on 8 cards left on the draw, and he has time out to buy some time. And I think he's got a fair amount of card draw left. I think he still has a Prismatic Lens as well.
Yeah.
So he can cycle through the rest of his deck
Master's
pretty
Call.
quick.
Wait, what beasts are even left? I keep
Oh, Master's Call, those
I mean,
0 Dire Frenzy minions. This is a high main.
It's a good card, yeah. But maybe you go for the Arcane Shot. Just because you can do this turn where it's Huffer, Life Drinker, Hero Power, and Arcane Shot. And that is 14 from hand. Versus the Master's Call, which draws you X amount of minions. If there's still a Rhino, that could be relevant.
Yeah, I think there's one Rhino, there's high main, and probably something else.
Although it's gotten to this interesting point where Patra's like, I wonder if she had to play a minion there because now the Shirvala can come down and get bankered, and then I think you're locked out of the game from that position.
The problem is, though, with only, say, Hero Power in for damage,
Well,
it's might be too long before you get to the one-turn lethal anyway.
it's true.
I think going for something, but as I said, I think there was a lot of card draw left in BloodTrail's deck from what I could recall. So already the Crystology into the Gnomish Engineer is pretty good. That's 3
Gnomish
cards.
Engineer. Yeah, that's 2 cards that draw cards.
Yeah,
Love
pretty
it.
good.
And it works out for Patra because BloodTrail doesn't have the banker for the Shirvala.
Not in his hand.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
right
has
now.
it in
So,
deck.
so he cannot go for the early Shirvala just for the healing effect.
But timeout does buy him a good chunk of time. Maybe this turn's the turn. Yep.
I think he definitely does not want to do this here, but he's forced to. And now Patra can develop the high main on the backswing.
And also just drop the Shimmer Flies. You might get some kill commands and any arcane shots, rapid fires, any damage spells help.
So I'm not sure if you drop the Shimmer Flies because they can charge with the Rhino, whereas they're not always sticking here. Maybe one, and then you hold on to the other for like a Rhino, Life Drinker, Shimmer Fly turn.
Sure. I think you always play one, and then you can maybe weigh up whether there's other things you can draw that actually enable the Hyena that ends up being more damage. Often not the case, because Paladin doesn't really play a lot of minions to even interact with.
One thing I want to bring up is that with the secondary list from Hunter, it seems like the Master's Call just draws stuff for the entire game, even though you're on just a few cards left in the deck, because you're running a wider variety of beasts and you're running more
Right.
copies of certain things.
Yeah. There's 2 high mains, 2 rhinos, which means it just consistently draws everything.
Yeah. So the Master's Call was definitely a good
The
pick
draws
there.
aren't as consistent, but you draw more often.
Okay, dropping the Hyena because I think it's exclusively Equality that is a mass board clear and the timeouts are gone. I think Patra's looking pretty good on this one.
So close.
BloodTrail doesn't even have the banker to go for the 1 in 6 in this spot. So BloodTrail.
But he can lens the banker, right? So at least he can shuffle a Chevalier in again.
Yes. Yeah, because the other banker
Right.
is still in deck.
So he has
I'm
2.
pretty
He
sure.
still has 2, but he's
Yes.
not shuffled anything in yet. Oh, just about. He just
Ooh,
forecast his
yeah,
like.
perfect.
So this again is BloodTrail just about making it work for now.
Super close.
And now that's all the way up, back up to 19. So there's what, 3, 6, 8, 14, 15 damage?
Yes, I think so.
I think that's the most as well. The kill command doesn't actually change the number. So 15 isn't lethal, so kill command or I wonder if just like Rhino Shimmer flying to the 3-1. No, that won't work. Yeah, it just has to be kill command, right? Pathra can't let BloodTrail swing with this Chevalier again.
Maybe you start with the Shimmerfly trade just to see if you get a better spell, but yeah, it also
But
activates.
do you always want to play Rhino this
Yeah,
turn?
it's a tough decision, but I think she's seen double timeout, right? So,
Could just be kill command, wing blast, hero power.
I think I like going in with the minions now. Oh, is there a lethal here with wing blasting your own Hymen? Because you got an extra 4 damage?
No, because something. Well, for 1 mana, because you have to trade into something for it to be 1
Well,
mana,
you could
right?
Shimmerfly your thing into, so you give
To
up
create
the
more
one.
damage?
Oh my gosh, I need to replay that turn.
Oh,
that
maybe
was
there
tough.
was.
Yeah.
If you shimmer fly into
Yeah.
the pyro.
Yeah, and you wing blast
But
your
no,
Hymen.
no,
or-
because then you can't play Life Drinker, which is 6 damage.
But you could have kill commanded face, right? Instead of onto the Shivala. I don't know. We'll have to replay
Yeah, we
that.
can look at that later on.
Yeah. Okay. But
Oh, this was not the order he wanted.
yeah.
He can go for this though, Hammer of Wrath.
I mean, the banker
chance.
gets him
Oh,
1 in 3. I think he has to go for it. Like, even healing up to 9 does not get there against the Hymen on board.
okay. My question is, does he have to go for it this turn? Can he
Yes.
Chevalier trade, weapon, trade the 2/2/2s, and
Well-
leave Chevalier on the board?
It never sticks, right? Oh, okay, fine.
Why doesn't it never stick? The board's empty, and your opponent's on 3 cards. You've seen kill commands. You've seen all sorts of
The
stuff.
Rhino, I don't know, right? Okay, it does sometimes stick, but I would personally go for the 1 in 3 here,
Okay,
and I
here we
can't
go.
look.
That is
Oh,
25,
my
and
goodness.
BloodTrail hits it. I think there were some other plays, but BloodTrail went for it, and it paid off, and he's going to up his score now to a 2-3 score in the Asia Pacific Grandmasters, and that means he is a little bit more secure, edging towards that 50-50 of just getting there, and he does actually play Glory tomorrow in a Paladin versus Rogue matchup. So good job for BloodTrail. Pathra goes 0-5 now, and some of the games have been so close that Patra's been involved in, but just not quite got there. Let's check out the results for the day, though, as that was our last match of Saturday. Kicking it off, we had Shaxi taking a win over the Rogue of Dawn in a 2-1, and he continues his dominance in this league so far. Glory, though, showing that Rogue can get the job done, a slightly different build than Dawn, but did take a win over Blitzchung's Hunter. And then we had Surrender with probably, I would say, the overall easiest series of the day and most simple with Surrender versus Tom, which is the Warrior versus the Paladin matchup.
Yeah. And Frosty and BloodTrail taking their wins there, although I do think that Pathra was in a position where the Hunter could have taken it. It's tough to say, though, because we kept on hoping we had more time to look at those turns, and she had some really tough decisions. But I just want to highlight that Paladin has been winning everything except the thing that you expected it to not win. So it's
Right.
just like you expected to win versus Mage, it wasn't there, but it's still overperforming against all these other matchups.
Yeah, it only. I enjoy Holy Wrath Paladin, but it only gives me one little fear in that if Holy Wrath Paladin becomes even better post-buff next week, then it means that more people are going to play Warrior. So we're going to hit a day where everyone just counters Paladin and plays Warrior, and then we're going to have all the time in the world on our hands. But yeah, that was a crazy day for us, and pretty cool to see all these Paladin matchups. I think there'll be a lot to discuss afterwards. So by all means, if you found anything out, if we didn't quite see some of these cool plays, we didn't have the time, then make sure to tweet us, because that'll be super interesting to see what some of the alternate lines could be and what they were going to lead to. But that's going to be us for today. Stay tuned for some Europe Grandmasters, and then going to go into America's Grandmasters as usual. And it's going to be for tomorrow. We have our 6 matches. So worst case, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Goodbye.